What is a kidney and how does it function in human body? A kidney is one of the vital organs in the human body, responsible for maintaining the body's internal environment by filtering and regulating the composition of blood and producing urine. Humans typically have two kidneys, located on either side of the spine, just below the ribcage. The main functions of the kidneys include: filtration is the first step in the process of urine formation within the kidneys. It occurs in the functional units of the kidneys called nephrons. Nephrons consist of a renal corpuscle and a renal tubule. The renal corpuscle includes the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, which together are responsible for the filtration process. Here's how filtration takes place. Blood supply: blood containing waste products, excess substances, and nutrients enters the kidneys through the renal artery. The renal artery branches into smaller arterioles, ultimately forming a network of tiny capillaries called the glomerulus within the renal corpuscle. Glomerular filtration: the glomerulus is a cluster of tightly packed capillaries with thin walls. Blood pressure forces plasma, the liquid component of blood, to be pushed through the thin capillary walls into the Bowman's capsule. This process is driven by the pressure gradient between the blood in the glomerulus and the space within the Bowman's capsule. Filtrate formation: the filtered fluid that enters the Bowman's capsule is called the glomerular filtrate. It contains water, electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, and chloride, waste products, urea, creatinine, etc., glucose, amino acids, and other small molecules. Importantly, blood cells and large proteins are typically too large to pass through the filtration barrier, so they are retained in the blood. Selective filtration: the filtration process is selective, meaning that it allows certain substances to pass through while retaining others. This selectivity is primarily determined by the size of the molecules and the charge of the particles. Smaller molecules and particles are more likely to pass through the filtration barrier than larger ones. It's important to note that the glomerular filtration rate, GFR, is a measure of how efficiently the kidneys are filtering blood. The GFR can be influenced by factors such as blood pressure, blood volume, and the permeability of the filtration barrier. If the GFR becomes too low, waste products and excess substances can accumulate in the body, leading to potential health issues. Conversely, if the GFR is too high, valuable substances may be lost in the urine. After filtration, the resulting glomerular filtrate moves into the renal tubules, where further processes such as reabsorption and secretion take place to modify the composition of the filtrate before it eventually becomes urine. Reabsorption is a crucial process that occurs within the renal tubules of the nephrons in the kidneys. After filtration in the renal corpuscle, consisting of the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, the resulting fluid, known as glomerular filtrate, contains a mixture of essential substances like water, glucose, and electrolytes, and waste products. Reabsorption involves the selective movement of these substances from the renal tubules back into the bloodstream, thereby maintaining the body's internal balance. Here's how reabsorption works. Selective reabsorption: the renal tubules are lined with specialized cells that actively transport certain substances back into the bloodstream. This process is called selective reabsorption because the body decides which substances to reabsorb based on its needs at any given time. Proximal convoluted tubule, PCT: the first and most active site of reabsorption is the proximal convoluted tubule. In this segment, around 65 to 70% of water, along with glucose, amino acids, and various ions, like sodium, chloride, and potassium, are actively reabsorbed back into the blood. This reabsorption is driven by active transport mechanisms that utilize energy to move substances against their concentration gradients. Loop of Henle: the loop of Henle is the next segment of the renal tubule. It consists of a descending limb and an ascending limb. It plays a critical role in creating a concentration gradient in the medulla of the kidney, which is essential for water reabsorption and the concentration of urine. Distal convoluted tubule, DCT: the distal convoluted tubule comes after the loop of Henle. In this segment, more selective reabsorption occurs, mainly involving the regulation of electrolytes like sodium and potassium. Hormones like aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone, ADH, influence the reabsorption of these ions. Collecting duct. The collecting ducts are the final regions where reabsorption takes place before the filtrate becomes urine. The permeability of the collecting ducts is influenced by ADH. If ADH is present, the collecting ducts become more permeable to water, allowing for water reabsorption and the concentration of urine. The process of reabsorption is essential for maintaining the body's fluid balance, electrolyte concentrations, and overall homeostasis. By reabsorbing necessary substances back into the bloodstream, the body conserves essential nutrients and maintains proper hydration levels. The substances that are not reabsorbed continue to move along the renal tubules and eventually become urine. Secretion is another important process that takes place in the renal tubules of the nephrons within the kidneys. It involves the active transport of certain substances from the bloodstream into the renal tubules. Unlike filtration, which is primarily concerned with removing waste products and excess substances from the blood, secretion allows the body to further regulate the composition of the urine by selectively adding substances to it. Here's how secretion works. Selectively adding substances. While filtration primarily removes substances from the blood, secretion adds specific substances to the filtrate that were not adequately filtered or need to be eliminated from the body. These substances may include additional waste products, excess ions, such as hydrogen ions and potassium ions, and certain drugs or medications. Secretion sites. Secretion mainly occurs in the distal convoluted tubules, DCT, and the collecting ducts of the nephrons. These segments of the renal tubules contain specialized cells that are capable of actively transporting substances from the blood into the filtrate. Hormonal regulation. The secretion of certain ions, such as hydrogen ions and potassium ions, is regulated by hormones. For instance, the hormone aldosterone influences the secretion of potassium and sodium ions in the distal convoluted tubules, helping to maintain electrolyte balance and blood pressure. Additionally, the secretion of hydrogen ions in response to pH imbalances helps to regulate the body's acid-base balance. Detoxification and waste elimination. Secretion also plays a role in the elimination of waste products that were not effectively filtered during the initial glomerular filtration. By secreting these waste products into the renal tubules, the body ensures their removal from the bloodstream and eventual excretion in the urine. In summary, secretion is a crucial mechanism for fine-tuning the composition of the filtrate, allowing the body to maintain appropriate levels of ions, regulate pH, and eliminate certain substances that are not efficiently filtered. By combining the processes of filtration, reabsorption, and secretion, the kidneys help maintain the body's internal balance and overall health. The regulation of fluid and electrolyte balance is a fundamental function of the kidneys that helps maintain the stability of bodily fluids, electrolyte concentrations, and blood pressure. This process is essential for overall health and proper bodily function. The kidneys play a central role in this regulation through various mechanisms, including filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. Here's how the kidneys regulate fluid and electrolyte balance. Filtration. The process of filtration in the glomerulus of the nephrons allows water, electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate, and other substances to be filtered out of the blood and into the renal tubules. This initial filtration creates a fluid called glomerular filtrate that contains a mixture of essential substances and waste products. Reabsorption. After filtration, the renal tubules actively reabsorb the necessary substances back into the bloodstream. The amount of reabsorption depends on the body's current needs. For instance, if the body is dehydrated and needs to conserve water, the kidneys will reabsorb more water to reduce urine output. Similarly, electrolytes like sodium and potassium are selectively reabsorbed based on the body's electrolyte balance. Hormonal regulation. Hormones play a significant role in regulating fluid and electrolyte balance. The hormone aldosterone, produced by the adrenal glands, increases the reabsorption of sodium and water in the distal convoluted tubules and collecting ducts. This helps increase blood volume and blood pressure. Antidiuretic hormone, ADH, produced by the hypothalamus and released by the pituitary gland, increases water reabsorption in the collecting ducts, leading to concentrated urine production and water conservation. Atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP. When the heart's atria are stretched due to increased blood volume and pressure, they release a hormone called ANP. ANP promotes the excretion of sodium and water in the urine, helping to reduce blood volume and blood pressure. Osmoregulation. The kidneys play a crucial role in osmoregulation, which is the maintenance of proper electrolyte concentrations in the body fluids. This involves adjusting the concentration of electrolytes in the urine based on the body's needs, ensuring that the body remains in balance. pH regulation. The kidneys also contribute to pH regulation by excreting excess hydrogen ions, acidic compounds, and reabsorbing bicarbonate ions, basic compounds. This helps maintain the body's acid-base balance. Overall, the kidney's ability to regulate fluid and electrolyte balance is vital for maintaining blood pressure, preventing dehydration, and ensuring the proper functioning of cells and organs. Disruptions in these regulatory mechanisms can lead to imbalances such as dehydration, electrolyte disturbances, and hypertension. pH regulation, also known as acid-base balance, is a critical physiological process that ensures the body's internal environment maintains a stable pH level, which is essential for proper cellular function and overall health. The kidneys play a significant role in regulating pH by controlling the excretion of hydrogen ions, H+, and the reabsorption of bicarbonate ions, HCO3, in the renal tubules. The body's pH is measured on a scale from 0 to 14, with a pH of 7 considered neutral. A pH below 7 is considered acidic, while a pH above 7 is considered basic, alkaline. Here's how the kidneys contribute to pH regulation. Excretion of hydrogen ions, H+ hydrogen ions are produced as metabolic byproducts and can accumulate in the body, leading to acidosis, lowering of pH. To prevent this, the kidneys actively excrete excess hydrogen ions into the urine. This process occurs in the distal convoluted tubules and the collecting ducts of the nephrons. The secretion of hydrogen ions helps maintain the body's pH within a normal range. Reabsorption of bicarbonate ions, HCO3- bicarbonate ions are important alkaline compounds that can bind to hydrogen ions, effectively neutralizing them and preventing excessive acidity. In the renal tubules, bicarbonate ions that were filtered out of the blood during glomerular filtration are actively reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. This helps replenish bicarbonate reserves and maintain the body's alkaline balance. Ammonia secretion. In addition to directly excreting hydrogen ions, the kidneys also use a process involving ammonia to buffer and eliminate excess acid. Ammonia, NH3, is produced in the kidney and combines with hydrogen ions to form ammonium ions, NH4+, which can be excreted in the urine. This helps remove excess acid from the body. Respiratory compensation. While the kidneys play a central role in pH regulation, the respiratory system also contributes to maintaining acid-base balance. When the body becomes too acidic, the respiratory system can increase the rate of breathing, which helps to eliminate excess carbon dioxide, a respiratory acid, from the body. Conversely, if the body becomes too alkaline, the respiratory rate can be reduced to retain carbon dioxide and increase acidity. Disruptions in pH regulation can lead to acidosis or alkalosis, which can have serious consequences for cellular function and overall health. Acidosis occurs when there is an excess of hydrogen ions in the body, leading to a decrease in pH. Alkalosis occurs when there is a deficiency of hydrogen ions, causing the pH to rise. Both conditions can affect enzyme activity, cellular processes, and organ function. The kidney's role in pH regulation is interconnected with other physiological systems, such as the respiratory system, to ensure that the body maintains a proper acid-base balance for optimal function and health. Blood pressure regulation is a complex physiological process that involves multiple systems working together to maintain a stable and appropriate blood pressure level. The kidneys play a crucial role in long-term blood pressure regulation through the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAS, and by regulating fluid and electrolyte balance. Here's how the kidneys contribute to blood pressure regulation. Renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAS. Renin release: when blood pressure decreases or when there is reduced blood flow to the kidneys, specialized cells in the kidneys called juxtaglomerular cells release an enzyme called renin into the bloodstream. Angiotensinogen conversion: renin acts on a protein called angiotensinogen, produced by the liver, converting it into angiotensin I. Angiotensin converting enzyme, angiotensin I, is then converted into angiotensin II by an enzyme called angiotensin converting enzyme, AC, which is primarily found in the lungs. Vasoconstriction and aldosterone release: angiotensin II is a potent vasoconstrictor, meaning it causes blood vessels to constrict, which increases blood pressure. It also stimulates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. Aldosterone promotes the reabsorption of sodium and water in the kidneys, leading to increased blood volume and further elevating blood pressure. Fluid and electrolyte regulation. By controlling the reabsorption and excretion of sodium and water, the kidneys can influence blood volume. An increase in blood volume leads to higher blood pressure, while a decrease in blood volume leads to lower blood pressure. Atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP. When the heart's atria are stretched due to increased blood volume and pressure, they release a hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP. ANP acts on the kidneys to promote the excretion of sodium and water in the urine, reducing blood volume and blood pressure. Sympathetic nervous system influence. The sympathetic nervous system, often associated with the fight or flight response, can also influence blood pressure. When the body perceives a need for increased blood pressure, such as during stress or physical activity, the sympathetic nervous system can cause blood vessels to constrict and increase heart rate. The kidneys can respond by releasing renin, which initiates the RAS process described above. Overall, the kidneys play a vital role in long-term blood pressure regulation by influencing blood volume and vasoconstriction through the RAS system. By adjusting fluid and electrolyte balance, the kidneys help maintain proper blood pressure levels, which are essential for adequate tissue perfusion, organ function, and overall cardiovascular health. Erythropoiesis regulation refers to the process by which the body maintains the production of red blood cells, erythrocytes, at an appropriate level to ensure adequate oxygen transport throughout the body. The kidneys play a central role in this regulation through the production and release of a hormone called erythropoietin, EPO. Here's how the kidneys contribute to the regulation of erythropoiesis. Erythropoietin, EPO, production. EPO is a hormone produced primarily in the kidneys, specifically in cells within the renal cortex and outer medulla. However, a small amount of EPO can also be produced in the liver. The production of EPO is stimulated by low oxygen levels in the blood, a condition known as hypoxia. Hypoxia can occur due to decreased oxygen availability, such as at high altitudes or when there is an insufficient number of red blood cells to transport oxygen effectively. Response to hypoxia. When the kidneys detect hypoxia, they release EPO into the bloodstream. EPO travels to the bone marrow, where it stimulates the hematopoietic, blood-forming, stem cells to differentiate and develop into erythrocytes. EPO promotes the proliferation and maturation of erythroid precursor cells, increasing the production of red blood cells. Feedback mechanism. As the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood increases due to the newly produced red blood cells, oxygen levels in the bloodstream rise. Higher oxygen levels suppress the production of EPO. This negative feedback mechanism helps prevent excessive erythropoiesis, ensuring that the body maintains an appropriate number of red blood cells without overloading the circulatory system. Medical applications. EPO has medical applications in treating conditions characterized by reduced red blood cell production, such as anemia resulting from chronic kidney disease, cancer treatments, or other disorders affecting bone marrow function. In summary, the kidneys are instrumental in regulating erythropoiesis by producing and releasing EPO in response to low oxygen levels in the blood. This hormone stimulates the production of red blood cells, which is essential for maintaining adequate oxygen transport to body tissues and organs. The balance between EPO production and oxygen levels in the bloodstream helps ensure that the body's oxygen needs are met while preventing excessive red blood cell production. Vitamin D activation is a process that primarily occurs in the skin and the kidneys, resulting in the conversion of inactive vitamin D into its active form. Vitamin D is crucial for maintaining calcium and phosphate homeostasis, bone health, and various other physiological functions in the body. There are two main forms of vitamin D, vitamin D2, ergocalciferol, and vitamin D3, cholecalciferol. Here's how vitamin D activation takes place. UVB exposure in the skin. Vitamin D can be obtained from dietary sources, but a significant amount is also synthesized in the skin when it's exposed to ultraviolet B, UVB, radiation from sunlight. UVB radiation converts 7-dehydrocholesterol, a compound present in the skin, into pre-vitamin D3, which is an inactive form of vitamin D. Conversion to cholecalciferol, vitamin D3. Pre-vitamin D3 is thermally unstable and undergoes a rearrangement in response to body temperature, converting into cholecalciferol, vitamin D3. Transport to the liver. Vitamin D3 is then transported to the liver, where it undergoes hydroxylation, addition of a hydroxyl group, at the 25th position by the enzyme 25-hydroxylase. This forms 25-hydroxyvitamin D, 25-OH-D, also known as calcidiol. This is the major circulating form of vitamin D and is often measured in blood tests to assess a person's vitamin D status. Activation in the kidneys. The next step of activation takes place in the kidneys. 25-OH-D undergoes further hydroxylation at the first position by the enzyme 1-alpha-hydroxylase, forming 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D, 1,25-OH-2D, also known as calcitriol. Calcitriol is the biologically active form of vitamin D. It acts as a hormone that regulates calcium and phosphate absorption in the intestines, promotes calcium reabsorption in the kidneys, and plays a role in bone health and mineral homeostasis. Feedback mechanisms. The synthesis of calcitriol is tightly regulated by negative feedback mechanisms. As calcium levels increase in the bloodstream, the production of parathyroid hormone, PTH, is inhibited. PTH would normally stimulate the production of 1-alpha-hydroxylase, so reduced PTH levels result in decreased conversion of 25-OH-D to calcitriol. Overall, the activation of vitamin D is a multi-step process that involves UVB exposure in the skin, conversion to active forms in the liver and kidneys, and regulation by various feedback mechanisms. Active vitamin D, in the form of calcitriol, is essential for maintaining calcium and phosphate homeostasis, bone health, and overall physiological function in the body. The waste and excess substances that are not reabsorbed by the kidneys are eventually excreted as urine, which is transported from the kidneys to the bladder through tubes called ureters. From the bladder, urine is expelled from the body through the urethra. Overall, the kidneys play a crucial role in maintaining homeostasis within the body, ensuring that waste products are eliminated and essential substances are retained, which is vital for overall health and proper bodily function.